How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Tes, Daf 19 of masechta Avodah Zarah. Friends, your friends. Yeah, Daf Yud Tes is pretty interesting, I'd say. Um, yeah, all sorts of like agaritas about learning Torah, the best ways to learn Torah, how much to learn Torah, things like that. How awesome it is to learn Torah. Therefore, you should keep on listening to Babylon Talmud if you want. And and then at the end, we kind of wrap up some Avodah Zarah stuff, and we'll get to the next Mishnah. Without further ado, here we go. Daf Yutes of masechta Avodah Zarah. Okay, where are we? What did we get up to? Okay, fine. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're continuing basically expounding the verse that we began expounding yesterday of Asher Hoish Asher Lo Holach Batzas Vishorim V'derech Hatoim Lo Omar which of Leitzim Lo Yoshov Kimteres Hashem Chefetz V'Suras Yegiyom V'Lela. That verse, or really several verses. So the Gemara begins at Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Amr of Shmuel ben Achmani, Amr of Yonason. Asher hoish shelo alach ba'atzas v'shoyim zoi Avram Avinu. Shelo alach ba'atzas anshe dar afloge. So this pasuk of Asher shelo alach ba'atzas v'shoyim is a reference to Abraham, our forefather Abraham, that he did not go in the ways of the Nudniks. That shelo alach ba'atzas anshe dar afloge. That Avram Avinu was alive during the Dor Floge when they built the Migdal Bavel. So he didn't get involved with that Narishkeit. So Rishoyim that they were Rishoyim Shenemar Hova Nivne Lanu Ir. I don't know, it doesn't say anything specifically about Rishoyim in that posuk, but I guess that was a pretty modnadik thing to do. Over there, Chatoyim Loyomad, Shlomer Ba'amidas Dom. He didn't get involved with Sodom. Lot decided that he was going to go to Sodom. Avram went, where did he go? Halach Ladarko or something? I don't know. Whatever. In my yamin vasmila, in my small vayamina, in my yamin vasmila, whatever that was. Okay. Shechatoyim ayu shenemar v'anshe sdorim roim v'chatoyim la'Hashem mod of Moshav leitzim lo yoshav shelo yoshav b'Moshav anshe plishtim. That Avram Avinu didn't get involved with the people of the Philistines, the Plishtim, because they were Leitzonim, Shenemar, Vayihi, Katov Libam, Vayomu Kiru L'Shimshin, V'Yisachik Lanu. Right, when the Philistines captured Samson, so then they were all Leitzani, and they said, get Shimshin, it'll entertain us. We want entertainment. Yidden, we don't want entertainment. Well, we do, but in the form of Limud Torah. Babylon Talmud, now that is quality entertainment there. Good, clean, quality entertainment. This is what the Yidden like. This is my kind of a daf. Ashrei ish yireas Hashem. Oh, fortunate is a fellow who fears God. Ashrei ish v'lo ashrei isha. What? Only boys, not girls? Amar Rav Amram Amar Rav Asher Misha Osa Tshuva Kshu Ish. Fortunate, praiseworthy is a fellow who does tshuva when he's an ish, when he's a bocher, when he's young and strapping, like all of us here at Babylon Talmud. Rabbi Shua Levi Amar Asher Misha Mizgarbe Al Yitzroi Ki Ish. Praiseworthy is a person who overcomes his inclination like a man. Mitzvosav Chofetz Meod. He desires the mitzvahs. Amr Balazar b'mitzvaysav v'loy b'schar mitzvaysav. He's interested in the mitzvahs. Nah, he's not thinking so much about the reward. That's not what's on his mind. What's on his mind is the mitzvahs themselves. Behind the Tanan, this is like the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, who aya omer that he would say, Al tiyu ka'avodim amshamshin esarav almanas lekabel pras. Don't be like the avodim who serve the adon in order to receive a reward. Be like avodim who work for the Adon even without the interest of receiving a reward, but just to do the mitzvahs, just to serve the Adon because of the desire to serve the Adon. Ki mitaris Hashem cheftzoi Amar Rebbe in Adam lo meid Torah el mimakum shalibai chafetz. A person studies the Holy Torah on topics that he's interested in. Shenemar ki mitaris Hashem cheftzoi. That the Torah of God is his desire, what he desires, what he's interested in. Levi Reb Shimon Rebbe Yazvi Kamed the Rebbe. Levi and Reb Shimon Rebbe were sitting before Rebbe B'Kapaski Sidra, and they were learning Tanakh, and they finished whatever sefer they were learning. So it came time to pull out a new sefer. So Paski Sidra Solik, what's happened? The B'Kapaski Sidra Solik sefer. So they finished learning whatever sefer they were learning. Levi Amar Lai Sulan Mishle. So Levi says, okay, I want to learn Mishle now. Reb Shimon Rebbe Omar, Lai Sulan Tilim. Whereas Reb Shimon Rebbe says, I would rather learn Tilim actually. Kafir the Levi Vaisu Tilim. And then they went with Reb Shimon Rebbe's suggestion of Tilim, and they said, sorry Levi, we're learning Tilim. We're not learning Mishle. And then of course they got up to this, what, the first verse in Tilim, Betson. Right, this mamish the first verse in all of Tilim. Ki miteras Hashem cheftzoi. No, that's the second verse in Tilim. Ki miteras Hashem cheftzoi. That the Torah of God is his desire. Parish Rebbe v'Omar, and Rebbe said this statement: "Ein adam lo mitorah lemimokim shli b'chafetz." That a person studies what he's interested in studying, what he wants to study. Levi didn't want to be studying Tilim right now. He wanted to be studying Mishlei. Omar Levi, so Levi says to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rebbe, Nasatali Rishus Lamud, okay, Be'etzim, you're giving me permission to go because I don't want to learn Tilim right now. I want to learn Mishlei. And you're saying if I don't want to learn Tilim, I shouldn't be learning Tilim. I should be learning Mishlei if that's what I want to learn. Omar Babdimi, anybody who studies the Holy Torah, so the Rabbeinu Shalom does his desires, does the person's desires for him. Shenemar ki miteras Hashem cheftzoi, that the Torah of God is his desires. Rava says, Rava, says Rava, a person should study in a place that he desires, not just what he desires, but where he desires. Shenemar ki miteras Hashem cheftzoi, that the Torah of God needs to be, I guess, in a place that he desires. Initially, the Torah is called based on God's name. It's God's Torah. But then it becomes his Torah. That I guess once you own it, once you study Babylon Talmud for 5.5 years, it becomes your own Torah. Rava says, Rava, a person should first do a first pass and then go deep. First go through the learning, quicker, just to get through it the first time, and then you go a little deeper. That's actually my mahalach. That's how I learn. Pashit, if I'm learning a daf, I'll first read through it. I won't understand the thing. Just read, because that way I could see like what's on the daf. It could feel out, is it going to be hard? Is it talking about like truma or kudshim or like tumah or whatever? It's like get like a lay of the land first. I don't stop. I don't try to figure anything out. Just read a chunk of Gemara, just to see like what are we talking about? What do we have in store? Is it going to be easy? It can be hard, whatever. And then I go through it again and try to understand it. Yeah, that's just kind of what works for me. Where am I? It says first the Torah of God, and then it says to analyze, to go deep. A person should first simply learn, even if he might forget it because he doesn't understand it that well. And even if the Rebbe, I think if I understand correctly, even if the Rebbe, that's funny. I think I understand correctly that even if the Rebbe doesn't necessarily know it so well. I think. Oops. Well, I guess on the positive side, I guess what it's saying is don't go to my competition. Listen to Babylon Talmud, even if the guy is just babbling. Shenemar, Garsa Nafshi L'Sava, Garsa Ksiv, V'lo Ksiv Tochen. It says Garsa Nafshi L'Sava, to shatter rather than to grind finely or something. So just do it. Wow. Case end point. Is it case in point or case and point? I think it's case in point, right? Case in point. The dude on Babylon Talmud is just babbling about how you should just listen to some guy who's babbling. Let's go weiter. Rava Rami. Oh, this is really my kind of daf. Rava Rami ksiv al gape v'ksiv al kisei. Okay, one pasuk says on the wings of that, like, you're moving around, flying around, place to place. The other one says al kisei, on a chair that you stationary. But tchila al gape v'sof al kisei. First al gape, first move around, fly around to, I think it was like to learn and do different things, but then eventually kind of settle down. All right, settle down. Ksiv v'rosh miromim. Okay, u'chsiv ali derech. It says like at the heights, and it also says on the way. B'tchila b'rosh miromim v'sof ali derech. I think first it's like, I think maybe it's like first before like a posek or something, like I don't know, like you don't necessarily have the answers to things, but then like you get like established or something. All right. Ula Rami, Ula asks if Shiseimai mi borecha. It says drink water from your pit. Uchsiv v'nozlim mitoch be'erecha, and it says from your well. First drink from your pit, and then afterwards from the well. A pit is like, you might have a lot of water in the pit, but it's like a finite amount. So like initially you don't necessarily know as much, but then over time, it becomes like a well that is from like a natural source that just is always filled, and you have, never ending shefa of Torah. Amar says, Rabba, Amar Rav Zchara, Amar Rav Huna, what does the pasuk mean? Hon mehevel yimad. That I think like hon, like if you have like a lot, if you just like study a lot, you're gonna end up with less. V'kovitz al yad yarbeh. But if you learn a little bit at a time, so then you'll end up with a lot. If a person makes his Torah into bundles and bundles and bundles, lots and lots and lots, mismayit, so you're gonna end up remembering less. V'kovitz al yad. But if you learn little by little, yarbeh, so then you'll end up with a lot. Rava says, look, the rabbis know this concept, to learn less rather than more, and yet they don't do it. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, I taka prescribed or prescribed. Dennis, I prescribed to this, and it worked out for me. Amr Shezvi, Bishmid Rab Elazar ben Azariah. What does the pasuk mean? Lo yachroch remia tzido. A trickster will not be able to eat his catch. Lo yichyev lo yarich yom tzayir aramoy. That a person basically was like a trickster, like a person who's just trying to like show off that he knows so much, and like just try to make it look like he's like a big Talmud Chacham or something. So lo yarich, right? So yachroch is like lo yarich yomim. You won't live a long time. All right, but like it's not good to just like try to be a show off. Rav Sheshes Amar tzayir aramoy yachroch, whereas Rav Sheshes says like a cunning hunter will eat, meaning like if you are just kind of smart about how you learn, and learn in manageable amounts, then it will work out. Ki also Rav Dimi Omar, he says, Mashal Adam shetzad siporin. It's like a person who hunts birds. Im mishaber knafel shel rishona. If you break the wing of the first bird that you catch, so that it can't fly away, kulam miskaimo. So then I assume that what it means is like if as you catch them, you're like breaking their wings, well then you'll be able to hold on to all of them. The imlav ein miskaimo bi'alda. But if like as you catch them, they're flying away, you're not going to have anything. Right, but if you can kind of manage them, so that as you can retain what you have, so that would be a good thing. They should be like a tree it doesn't say natua, right? Amar Rabbi Yana ke'etz shasul v'lo ke'etz natua. Natua is like planted stark and firm. Shasul is like I think it's like you pick it up from one place and like plant it in another place. It's like it's not as strongly placed. Kol Talmud. If a person learns Torah only from one rabbi, meaning he's like natua, he's like implanted in one place, he's not going to see blessing in his learning. Right? Rather, you should go from place to place and learn from multiple rabbis. The good thing, Chevre, is that I'm not a rabbi, so this doesn't apply to me. Don't go to my competition, all right? Stick with me. Rav Chizda says, L'Rabbanon, Rav Chizda says to the rabbis, Ba'ina de'ema l'chum milsa, and Rav Chizda says along similar lines, I wonder if any of my competition, they're just going to skip these lines. They get nervous. I don't get nervous. Everybody at Babylon Talmud, they're free to do whatever they want. You know, I'm here. I'm always here for you. You can always come home. You can always come home to Babylon Talmud. All right. So Rav Chizda says, look, I want to tell you, but I'm nervous that by telling you this, I'm going to have an empty Beis HaMedrash. Listen, if you only study with one rabbi, you're not going to have any blessing. You have to go and learn from other people. Shavku, and sure enough, the Beis HaMedrash cleared out. Ve'ozlu kame, it says Rava. I think that makes less sense. There's a different case that says Rabba, which I think makes more sense. So they all left Rav Chizda, who was maybe in Surah, and they went to Rabba in Pumbedisa. And okay, they went to learn with another rabbi. But Rabba says, Hani mide svara. Look, in terms of learning with multiple rabbis, so that's like to go deep and to get different perspectives. If you're going deep and you want to learn how to think and analyze, so yeah, it would be good to get multiple experiences with different rabbis. However, but to learn bikiyas, to learn more things, like Babylon Talmud, it's good to just learn from one rabbi kiechi to liful glishne. I think that this might be like a reference. Back then, even this was only shortly after Rabbi Yehuda Anossi had written down Torah Sheba'al Peh for the first time, right? As we know, right? Trei Tanoi Aliba, whatever. Like sometimes there can be different girsos, right? Meaning everything was Torah Sheba'al Peh. So if you're learning, so in terms of how to think, yeah, go to different rabbis to get different perspectives. But in terms of like getting your core kind of bank of knowledge, better to be with one teacher, because that way he will be consistent with how he teaches, as opposed to just if you're trying to establish your core base of knowledge and you're going to different teachers who are saying things differently, you might get confused. On divisions of water and a my melatoral that's not the Gemara. I was just saying that. There's a Gemara in Kiddushin. A person should divide his years in three. Shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud. 1/3 of his years should be studying scripture. 1 year should be studying the Mishnah, and 1/3 of his years should be studying Gemara. But how does a person know how long he's going to live? If he lives to 90, then he should spend 30 years on each. If he lives to 60, he should only spend 20 years on each. So, what do you do? So, ki amina biyomi. So, there's a machlekes Rashi and Tosfos here. Rashi says what this means is the day. So, if every week you have 7 days, I guess one of them is Shabbos, so then 2 days you should learn Tanakh, 2 days you should learn Mishnayos, 2 days you should learn Gemara. Tosfos argues that taka every day, every single day, you should be learning all three. Tosfos taka says that every day you should be learning all three. And he gives 2 suggestions. Tosfos gives 2 suggestions for what all three looks like. One, very interestingly, is in the morning, we say korbanis, right? Like what's it called? It's korban elach milishai, so that's Torah. And then after that we have Ezu Mukamon, which is Mishnayos, and then we have Rabbi Shmuel Omer, which is a Brisa. So that's one. Opinion. Rabbeinu Tam Taka says that it's learning Gemara like we do at Babylon Talmud. If you learn Gemara, as we're learning on this stuff, there's psukim, there's plenty of psukim, there's Mishnayos, of course, there's Brisas, there's everything. There's Gemara, there's discussion, questions, answers. So by learning Gemara, Yitaka feed 3 birds with 1 seed. Ashapir Yitain Beito, that his fruit, right? I mean, this is still right. Ke'et shasol apal gemayim asher pir yitin beito, right? Like a tree, right next to water that it gives its fruits on time. So Amaravin pir yitin beito, if he gives his fruit on time, Rashi gives 2 explanations. Either it means that he's koveh itin la Torah, like we are here at Babylon Talmud, of course, but also it can mean that if somebody also does, when he learns and he also does, so then aler lo yibol, then his leaves won't wither. Lab, but if he doesn't learn properly, well then alomid val malamed alem akos of omer lo kein harishoyim kim v'gomer. Then both about the teacher as well as the student refers to them as rishoyim. Amar Abba, Amar Avuna, Amar Rav, Ma'adich Siv, Ki Rabim Chalolim Ipilo. What does it mean that we're making a lot of dead people? This is a student who is not yet ready to paskin halacha, and he's already paskin halacha when he's not yet prepared. But you also have the opposite. This is somebody who is in a position where they should be paskening halacha and they don't. At what age, right? Until what age should a person wait and refrain before paskening halacha? Ad mem shnin. Wait until one is 40 years old. Rabba ori asim b'shavin. So it says here Rabba, but I think it should be Rabba. Right? Rabba lived till 40 years old, right? So Rabba was the Rosh Yeshiva in Pumbedisa, and of course he was being more halacha in his lifetime, and he died at the age of 40, which means that Memele, he was paskening before 40. He says yes, but there was nobody that was greater than him, so therefore he was allowed to pasken halacha even before the age of 40. Ve'aleu lo yibol, its leaf will not wither. Amar Rav Acha bar Ada, Amar Rav v'Amar lo, Amar Rav Acha bar Abba, Amar Rav Hamnuna, Amar Rav, shafilu sichas chulin sh'talmidei chacham tzricha Talmud. That even the basic discussions of Talmidei Chacham, the basic chatter of Talmidei Chachamim, you should learn, is a study. You should learn from and learn how to, talk yourself and how to behave yourself. You can learn just from how they talk. Shenemar v'aleu lo yibol, that aleu, even the leaves, the simple things, shall not wither. You should pay attention to those as well. V'chol asher yaisa yatzliach, and everything that he does will succeed. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Torah, this concept, the following concept, is written in the Torah V'shana B'Navim and is duplicated in the prophets Mishulish B'Ksuvim and is triplicated in the writings. Anybody who toils in the Torah, so then Nechasav Matzlichino, his property is also, I think there's a different gear that says Drachav, his ways will be successful. It says in the Holy Torah, as the Apostle says, Ushmaitem is divrei abris azos, and you shall guard the words of this covenant. So everything that you do, I guess, should be successful. Okay. Okay. Fine. It says in the prophets, this Torah scroll shall not leave your mouth. You shall study it day and night. Then you will succeed. Study Torah and you shall succeed. You study Torah, everything you do will succeed. Rabbi Alexandra announced, Man boi chai, who wants life? Who wants life? Karnavasu kule amos. So everybody gathered around. They said, we want life. They said, give us life. He says to them, he quotes a pasuk from Tilim, who desires life? Guard your mouth. Right? Speak nicely. Maybe a person will say, I did guard my mouth. So now let me just go to sleep. I'm not gossiping, may as well just go to sleep. Vein tov el Torah. It says, stay away from bad and do good. Good is the Holy Torah. Shneimar ki lekach tov nasat lechem Torah siata azovu. So rather, don't just go to sleep. Listen to Babylon Talmud. That'll wake you up. All right. Interesting discussion. Okay, so the Mishnah said that you're allowed to build like an altar, which was interesting. I didn't really understand it at the time, but now I learned the Gemara. It makes a little more sense. So it says you're allowed to build an altar. Now, an altar, you're not building Avodah Zarah itself. You're building something that the Avodah Zarah is going to go on, but it's but it's not the Avodah Zarah itself. I think that's the point, that you're building something that the Avodah Zarah might be placed on. Whatever it is, you're not building the getchke itself. So now, that if a person builds this altar, so the shaila is, can you receive reward for it, right? A yid builds an altar for a getchke, and then he gets paid. Is that payment osur? So we're saying no, it's mutter. It's mutter. In Bana Schar Mutter, if he builds the altar, is payment is permitted. Pshita, that's obvious. Misham she'avodas kechavim hein, because this isn't a getchke itself. It's a what's the word? I don't know. It's a I'm going to say paraphernalia, but that's not what I'm thinking of. But it's something that's needed for the getchke, but it isn't the getchke itself. A Facebook meta getchke. So misham she'avodas kechavim. There's going to be a machlokes Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva that we're going to get to in about a month. That it seems that they argue about a getchke itself. At what point does it become asur? Is it when it's built, it's already asur? You have a getchke, it's never been worshipped, but it's a getchke, so it's already asur, or is it only asur once it's worshipped, then it becomes asur? That's a machlokes when it comes to the getchke itself. But in terms of, something that you're building for the getchke, everyone agrees that it would only be asur once it was actually used in serving the Avodah Zarah. And therefore, if a person builds this altar, which isn't a getchke, it's for the getchke, everyone would agree that it isn't yet asur. It would only be asur once it's used in worship, in service. And therefore, of course, it can receive payment. So I'm going to read that again. Pshita, it's obvious. Misham she'avodas kechavim hein. It's an accessory. I think that's the word I'm thinking of. An accessory for Avodah Zarah. Misham she'avodas kechavim, and accessories for Avodah Zarah. Ben Rabbi Shmuel, ben Rabbi Akiva, both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva agree. Ein asur ad she'yavdu. It would only be asur once it's worshipped. But when you're finished building the accessory and you receive payment for it, and it hasn't yet been used, of course it's permitted. So Bima says, well, actually, the Chiddush is for the Avodah Zarah itself. Even one who builds a getchke can receive payment for it, and it would be permitted payment. The payment is permitted. So I understand if you say, okay, look, a yid who builds a getchke for himself, then that's immediately asur. However, here we're talking about where you build a getchke for an ovid kechavim, so if you say that, one who builds a getchke for an ovid kechavim would only be asur once the ovid kechavim uses the getchke, so he hasn't yet used the getchke, so the payment is mutter. However, but the opinion that says that one who built that a getchke that's been built is immediately forbidden, well, then when he's receiving payment, he's receiving forbidden payment. So how does this work? How can we say it's permitted payment? This is a very interesting answer. It's going to touch on a sugya that from masechta Kiddushin, from masechta Bava Kama, possibly other places, but I can't remember. The final blow. We're talking about the final blow. When, let's go weiter. At what point is a getchke considered a getchke? At the end, right? I don't know, maybe you're building some kind of a getchke. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to look like, what would a good getchke look like? I don't know, some getchke that looks like some like elephant sitting like Indian style, meditating with a bunch of things on its head. I feel like that's like that's like a getchke, you know? I think, right? Or maybe some like woman. I don't know. I've seen getchkes, you know, or you're like a Buddha or something. No, no, but like if you go to the Israel Museum, there's like right by where they have the Chinese and Japanese stuff. So then you go to the back room over there. They have these like Indian getchkes, and that's kind of what I'm imagining. Maybe I'll go back. That could be a good idea. I should take a. Well, now I'm still in Chutzars, but maybe I should take a trip. Maybe the Yerushalayim folk. We should take a trip to the Israel Museum, and maybe we could look around for some getchkes. That could be a nice trip. I'll go upon him. Anyways, so let's say he's building a getchke of like some elephant sitting and meditating. So at what point is it considered done? Well, you know, when he's mid work and he's still knocking away over there, knock. So it's not yet a getchke. Nobody would serve that. It's not done yet. When does it become a getchke? When you blow the final blow with the hammer. At that point, it becomes a getchke. So Alma kasaver wemas melacha b'makush achron, makush achron leis be shover pruta. Where magmar melacha ve'emas avia magmar melacha b'makush achron leis be shover pruta. Alma kasaver yeshen l'skirs mitchil v'atsof. This is givaldi. So the thing is, it only becomes a getchke at the final blow. The final blow is less than a shover pruta. It's a knack, one knack, azoy. So that's less than a shavar pruta. And therefore it's insignificant. And there's yeshno l'schirus mitchila v'atsof. Do you remember this machlekes? Eino l'schirus elo levasof, or yeshno l'schirus mitchila v'atsof. At what point is there a payment due to the builder? So in this case, the yid. Do we say eino l'schirus elo levasof, that the payment comes at the end? That building, knocking. He's owed nothing. When he gives the final blow and now the getchke is complete, at that point he's owed money, that would be a problem. Right? Because if you say that when the getchke is complete, it's already immediately also, then you'll be receiving payment for the getchke, that's a problem. But if you say, as the Gemara is holding here, yeshno l'schirus mitchila v'ad sof, that actually with each knack you are piling up more of debt, basically, right? It's like, I don't know, let's say the getchke costs $1,000. With each blow, another dollar, another dollar. So when you're halfway through building the getchke, you've already accrued $500 worth of work that you've done, and the one who's paying for the work, the commissioner, has a debt to the worker of $500 right at that point when you're halfway done. So the point being, once you get to that final blow, you've already built up $1,000 worth of value. That final blow is less than a shavar pruta. It's nothing significant, right? Even before the final blow, you already did $1,000 worth of work. That final blow it's the final one, but it's it's just one of countless blows. So therefore, that's why you can receive payment, because it's only going to be considered. So even though, yes, after the final blow, it's already usher, but by that point you had already, racked up the full bill, and therefore it's permitted to receive the payment. And this is like the opinion that says yeshno l'schiros mitchila v'ad sof. Very interesting stuff. That was Daf Yomi Avodah Zarah. We learned all sorts of interesting limudim about the value of Torah study, the rewards for Torah study, the best context in which to Torah study, and then we wrapped up with a very interesting discussion about receiving payment for building getchkes, and the concept of yeshno l'schiros mitchila ve'ad sof. Have a good one. Peace out.